Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Whitepill. Perfect. Got audio. Excellent. Yeah, apologies for the multiple delays there. Had to grab some last-second provisions. Looks like might be coming down with something, but I got my tea here. Some lozenges. Hopefully we'll make it through. But yeah, hope you guys have all had a wonderful week so far. Jesus Christ, I'm so goddamn dark on this camera. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a lighting setup. Reason for the stream delay is, as always, I want to be able to provide the best show for you guys. Any amount of time that anyone spends even watching this, I'm thankful for. So I try my best, make sure that it's worth your while. And I've just needed the last couple of days to work some things out. But in any case, we are full steam ahead today. I might do another episode later tonight. I just have another function to go to, so depending on the timing of that, I might be able to squeeze another one out. I have 2 shows lined up that are basically ready to go. And our usual convoy show that we've been doing every Wednesday, it'll have to shift to Friday, just because of some scheduling issues there. But in any case, we are back. We are back with the Whitepill. Before we get started, so I've had to remove the PayPal link just because I got a couple of very suspect donations from the last couple of streams, and I looked into it. Dealing with chargeback issues is a bitch and a half, which I refuse to put up with. So as a result, at the moment, we are a crypto-only stream. In the future, I'm going to be looking to get some kind of cash option so that people don't just have to send crypto. But at the moment, the only the only links that are available for donation, if you want to support the stream financially, is the crypto link on the main Whitepill link there. So it's the bio.link/Whitepill. You can go there, and the first link there will be for the donating using crypto. As far as I know, you could really only send As far as I know, you could really only send messages when you donate with Solana. I don't know of any other blockchains and coins that will allow for it, but as far as I know, Solana is really the only one so far. I think it allows for like 1,000 characters of text or something like that, so that should be plenty enough. Let me just pop another lozenge in there. Last thing I need is to reschedule this again, but in any case, yeah, so we got a couple sus donations through PayPal. I don't want to deal with chargebacks, so donate to crypto in the meantime. Otherwise, just liking, commenting, and subscribing. That's more that I could ask for. I appreciate each and every one of you that even takes the time to watch this. And let me just pull my notes up here. Oh, yeah, in the description of this stream and this episode, you'll find 2 referral links. One for Rumble, which is my main platform. So if you want to really support me, sign up for an account using that link. Give a thumbs up to all the videos, comment there. And also Proton referral link. I use Proton for just about everything. It's kind of replaced my Google Cloud. So they have a Documents app, I believe they just released, or rather a Drive app, so you could actually like host files on there. And they have spreadsheets right now, and also Word files, and a couple of other features coming up. They have a password manager as well, a VPN. Proton isn't like the perfect standard when it comes to privacy, but it's pretty decent. It gets the job done. So yeah, check out the referral link there. There's no additions to the list this week, so we don't really have anything to add, but it is ongoing. I'm bookmarking a lot of posts on X from different judges or migrants that have to be deported or policies that have to be changed, so got more stuff coming down the pipeline there. And without further ado, I guess, yeah, we'll get into the show then. So we are officially, and by we, I mean North America, and by North America, I mean America. America is officially at war with Iran, which feels a little surreal to say, primarily because, well, this is the last thing that we expected, considering that Trump literally, like, he ran on the promise that he would not go to war with Iran. He clowned past presidents for arguing for a war with Iran. And he turned around and he did it anyways. Which is, I mean, I guess typical Trump, but it's so strange. I mean, there's this compilation here, which I'll play in a second. But it's so surreal because his entire candidacy was predicated upon draining the swamp. Sorry, I just had to clear my throat. Oh, I guess it's getting worse today. But his entire campaign was predicated upon draining the swamp, doing away with establishment politics. And by establishment politics, I mean the course of things as they were, right? Actually trying to not support the people, but trying to live up to their expectations, right? Quote unquote, like the people, the silent majority, as they were called. I mean, his entire reason for being, the entire reason his campaign took off in such a way that it did, upsetting Hillary Clinton, somebody who's been vying for the presidency, I mean, for almost all her life. Somebody that was like as established a candidate as can be, completely like turning the GOP on its head. And yet he still went for it anyways. It is just, I don't know, it's weird. It's weird. You know, Trump has always had the character of being somebody unpredictable, of saying one thing and doing another to an extent, right? The man does follow up on a lot of what he says, but this is it's not out of left field, but I didn't think he would actually do it. I didn't think that he'd actually go through with it. Because all the rhetoric, I mean, going to war with Iran has been the equivalent of like a punchline to a joke. Because we always all like just assumed that it would lead to World War III. And for all we know, we could actually be headed there. So the title for this episode, you know, the fact that it's called World War III, it's a bit in jest, but the thing is, like, anybody that's studied history, even remembers history class, all of these things, all of these massively important historic events, they've always started with one little tiny thing, and then it cascades into something bigger. And only when you step back can you see the whole image, can you see the whole lineage of all the decision tree behind it, right? So for all we know, this actually could be it. And with that being said, let's just play some highlights of Trump and his admin straight up saying that they're not going to go to war with Iran, or that it would be foolish.
The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But so you still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it?
You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
Okay, all right.
The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands.
We've spent $8 trillion in the Middle East, and we're not fixing our roads in this country. How stupid is it? And we're not fixing our highways, our tunnels, our bridges, our hospitals even, our schools even. It's crazy. We've spent $8 trillion in the Middle East.
But America's interest is sometimes going to be distinct. Like sometimes we're going to have overlapping interests, and sometimes we're going to have distinct interests. And our interest, I think, very much is in not going to war with Iran. Right. It would be huge distraction of resources. It would be massively expensive to our country. Yeah. But America's interest is.
Here are the steps that Donald Trump has taken to create a war with Iran. First, he tore up the Iran nuclear agreement.
I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
Second, he has escalated crippling sanctions against Iran.
The sanctions kicking in at midnight Sunday target Iran's oil exports, banking, and shipping, even though UN inspectors say Iran is still complying with the nuclear deal.
The United States will pursue additional sanctions, tougher than ever before.
Third, he designated Iran's military as a terrorist organization.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
All right, this goes on for 2 minutes, so we're not going to watch the whole thing, but you get the point. All right, so we have this compilation of him talking about the war in the Middle East, how for, 20 or so odd years, America's been spending trillions. Meanwhile, its own infrastructure crumbles. And here we are. Here we are, and it's actually happening. I mean, yeah, it's just I'm still every day I wake up and I see headlines about this war, the footage online. I have to kind of remind myself that it's not a dream. It's not fake. This is actually happening right now. There are bombs being dropped, drones being flown, and even potential ground invasion on the books, which I have no idea what the hell that's going to look like going forward. But just give me 1 second, guys. I just need to take care of something urgent. I will be back in 2 minutes. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, and we're back. Apologies for that. So that is but one of the videos that we're going to see today. Regarding the history of Trump talking about how disastrous it would be, and let's get another clip going.
We must abandon the failed policy of nation building and regime change that Hillary Clinton pushed in Iraq, in Libya, in Egypt, and in Syria.
We want to help them. We'll be good to them. We'll work with them. We'll help them in any way we can, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. We're not looking, by the way, for regime change, because some people say we're looking for regime change. We're not looking for regime change. I've watched President Obama and many other presidents try that. It doesn't work out too well. We're not looking for that at all.
Finally, to the people and leaders of Iran, we want you to have a future, and a great future, one that you deserve, one of prosperity at home and harmony with the nations of the world. The United States is ready to embrace peace.
Again, I think Iran has tremendous economic potential, and I look forward to letting them get back to the stage where they can show that. I think Iran, I know so many people from Iran. These are great people. It has a chance to be a great country with the same leadership. We're not looking for regime change. I just want to make that clear.
We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war. I have deep respect for the Iranian people. They are a remarkable people with an incredible heritage and unlimited potential. We do not seek regime change. However, the Iranian regime's aggression in the region, including the use of proxy fighters to destabilize its neighbors, must end, and it must end now.
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So
I'm looking to have a really good Iran, really strong. We're not looking for regime change. You've seen how that works over the last 20 years. That hasn't been too good. And we're looking to make Iran rich again. Let them be rich. Let's let them do well. I think that Iran is a country of tremendous potential We're not looking for leadership change. We're not looking for that kind of change. This country's been through that many times before. That doesn't work.
So for almost 10 years, we've been hearing this. For almost 10 years. This man has been getting up on the world stage and declaring that regime change in Iran would be disastrous, that it's better if Iran was enriching itself and not the uranium, if it was welcomed in to the global partnership of nations. For almost 10 years, he's been going on this. His campaign was dedicated to stopping wars in the Middle East. And here we are. And here we are. Let's get another clip going.
America first. We are finally putting America first. Our policy of never-ending war, regime change, and nation building is being replaced by the clear-eyed pursuit of American interests. There you go. It is the job of our military to protect our security, not to be the policeman of the world. We are finally...
Yeah, these are just endless. They've been popping up for the last couple of days, weeks even. Here's another tweet. Quote, "The United States has spent $8 trillion fighting and policing the Middle East. Thousands of our greatest soldiers have died and been badly wounded. Millions of people have died on the other side. Going into the Middle East is the worst decision ever made." Back in 2019. This is what he tweeted back in 2019. In 2011, in order to get elected, Barack Obama will start a war with Iran. It keeps going and going and going. There's an endless pile of evidence around this. This clip I already played before, so I won't play it again. I didn't realize it was part of that other compilation. Oh, this is I'll save this for later. And this is what J.D. Vance said in response. I think only either on the same day as the initial attacks or the day after. This is just gold. This is just pure gold right here.
With Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East, I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then we had dumb presidents, and now we have a president who actually knows how to accomplish America's national security objectives. So this is not going to be some long, drawn-out thing. We've got in, we've done the job of setting their nuclear program back. We're going to now work to permanently dismantle that nuclear program over the coming years, and that is what the president has set out to do. Simple principle. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. That has animated American policy over the past 130 days. It's going to continue to be a driving force of our policy in the Middle East for the next 3.5 years.
Before we had idiots in office, but now we have geniuses. Now we have tactical geniuses who are going to go in, create a surgical precision guided strike. And it's not going to be a long, drawn-out thing. Okay. All right. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. Now, the interesting thing here is, for those that don't know, this war is essentially being fought on behalf of Israel. And this used to be a conspiracy theory, or something that was rather... It remained unconfirmed because nobody in the administration actually came out and said that this was done on behalf of Israel, or that this was part of Israel's demands. But for those unaware, back in 2007, there was an interview on the show called Democracy Now!, where General Wesley Clark, so general for the Pentagon, he was visiting it 10 days post 9/11, and another general showed him a classified memo from Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld's office outlining a plan to take out 7 countries in 5 years. These 7 countries were Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. Now, the reason that these countries are significant is because they are in some way, shape, or form opposed to the state of Israel in varying degrees. Obviously Iran being the number one, everyone else just kind of falling in between. But this memo, the reason that it's significant is because it directly matched the stated goals of the neocons of this paper that they published called The Clean Break, right, in 1996, where they were advocating in this paper for the overthrow of Saddam, the weakening of Syria and Hezbollah, and containing Iran to secure Israeli dominance in the region. Now, post 9/11, these aligned, right? These stated missions aligned with the visions of the U.S. reshaping the region and reducing the threats to Israel from anti-Israel regimes while empowering its position versus Iran. So Iraq was invaded in 2003, where they toppled Saddam. Syria, where U.S.-backed proxies and the CIA Operation Timber Sycamore led to the civil war from 2011 to 2024, where Assad finally fell. Now he's in Russia somewhere, being an optometrist, I believe. For Lebanon, there's no direct U.S. attack, but Israel had an invasion in there around 2006, where the U.S. obviously armed them. Hezbollah, which is an Iran proxy group, persisted. There was minimal destabilization, so it's still an ongoing threat. And I believe actually Israel, in the last 2 days or so, they've now sent in troops. They're doing a ground invasion of the region. For Libya, there was a NATO-led, or rather a US-led NATO bombing run in 2011, where they ousted Gaddafi, which that was one of those dictator removal operations where they actually had cell phone footage of it, and there is, I think, to this day, if you're a good enough super sleuth, you can actually find the footage of Gaddafi being captured by the rebels, where they stuck a bayonet up his ass. You can actually see the footage. It's they don't show his ass, obviously. They show his reaction, which was just absolutely gruesome. Somalia is still in the grips of civil war, as far as I know, with all the warring factions. Sudan as well has all this inner turmoil. And now Iran. So these 7 countries, right, just one by one, throughout the 2000s, have been in some way, shape, or form seen interventions by the US or NATO, which is US-led, or the US sponsors Israel in order to go in and actually fight these conflicts. And every step of the way, Israel is benefiting, because with every single player that's removed off the board, every single country that's removed off the board as a significant deterrent to Israel, now they're benefiting from it directly. Right? And if these nations are taken care of at Israel's behest, then Israel becomes the dominant player in the region. They now will have a sphere of influence, assuming this Iran operation goes the way that they want it to. They will have a sphere of influence in the Middle East. Unopposed, mind you, an unopposed sphere of influence. Which is concerning to say the least, seeing as how the war in Gaza has been going on, still going on, as far as I know. You know, there really never was an end to it. It's just kind of in the background now. But if they become the dominant power in that region, then they can basically do whatever the fuck they want with impunity. And this would not be possible without U.S. support. Israel does not have the manpower. They do not have the technological capabilities. They don't have the anti-air and anti-missile defenses. I mean, the United States supplies them with the missile, the interceptors that they use for their Iron Dome. Right? Like, Israel as a state would not exist without the help of America. Plain and simple. Without U.S. funding, they would die. They would cease to exist. And then, just jumping forward here, I would be surprised if they deleted this. Oh, I guess they didn't. They had the wherewithal to not delete it. Then, right, just yesterday, or sorry, the day before yesterday, so Sunday, I believe, right? Monday. My apologies. On Monday, we get actual proof that this conflict, the reason that it even started, the reason that this current iteration of it started, is because Israel pressured America into it. And let's just listen to this clip here, because this kind of speaks for itself.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
So once again, he says the United States was aware that Israel was going to conduct actions in Iran, and that because the Americans have assets on the ground, in their bases, naval or otherwise, in the region, that there will be a counterattack. Right? Makes sense so far. And so to preempt any losses, America was, in so many words, incentivized to strike first. So, once again, the Americans knew the Israelis were going to attack Iran, and so to make sure that their assets on the ground were safe, America joined in this attack. And this is as close to a confirmation as we're going to get of this war being fought on, number one, Israel's behalf, and two, as a direct result of Israel's actions. Because literally the day after, okay, the day after that Marco Rubio made this statement, he tried to walk it back. He tried to walk it back and say, when did I say that? I said nothing of the sort. Let me see if I can find that clip, because this was just, I mean, God, did these people not know how the internet works? Do they just not care? Do they not understand that the eyes of the world are on them? Let me see if I can find the actual clip, because this is nothing but incredible. Because when he tells the reporter, like, did you listen to a word of what I've said? Were you actually there? Were you actually there to hear me say these words? And then it turns out that same reporter was the one that actually asked the question that led to this. Oh, come on. It's just fucking nonstop memes right now. Come on. I need that clip. I need that clip. Come on. Oh, I guess I should have fucking bookmarked it because this is insane. Why is this not the top clip that's coming up in the search? This is actually nuts. Why is it not coming up? This is crazy. Okay, I guess I'm not going to be able to find the clip, but this was making the rounds yesterday where Marco Rubio said, like, did you not hear a word that I said? Were you not there yesterday? And the reporter himself stated, I was the one that asked the question. I was the one that made you answer the question in the first place. So I don't understand what this administration is thinking regarding their communication strategy. That this is, I mean, sloppy isn't even the word for it. I don't even know what word you could use at this rate, because it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. This is nothing short of insanity. These people are literally playing with fire, playing with nuclear fire, and this is how they decide to conduct themselves. It is nothing short of insane. So, all in all, this clip, right? The reason that it's important. So, who runs the U.S. military? Who decides where the U.S. military is going to take action? Is it the Americans? Is it Donald Trump? Or is it Israel? Because it seems to be Israel. From the list of 7 countries that I pulled up earlier to this, like, was there really nothing that could be done to dissuade Israel from doing this? There was no lever that they could pull. There was no pressure that they could apply to stop them from doing this. Was there really nothing that could be done? Was Iran really posing an imminent threat to the United States? I mean, it was just last year that they went on that bombing run, destroyed their major nuclear weapon development facilities, nuclear enrichment facilities, and their nuclear program was deemed useless. It was made useless. It was made redundant. They turned it into a pile of rocks. So this argument that people say, oh, Iran's weeks away from a nuke, Iran is, they could go back to enrichment. How? You were only boasting about your successful strikes months ago, less than a year ago, talking about this. So you don't get to just fall back on that. You don't get to say that, like, those two things cannot exist in the same realm. It's either they don't have nuclear capabilities or they do. Let me see if I can get that compilation of the people saying that Iran is only weeks away from a nuke. Oh, here it is. This is great. Just completely telling on themselves. This is a compilation of Netanyahu saying that Iran is days, minutes away from getting a nuke.
Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to have
to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade. Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
Not stopped.
Since 1996, Netanyahu's been on this. Since 1996. And probably even before then. This is just what we have on record. Let's see another one. We got another compilation here? Oh, okay. This is a little bit of a different one. I'll play that in a bit. Now, Reuters was reporting this just 2 days ago. Quote, Pentagon tells Congress no sign that Iran, what the fuck ever. Iran was going to attack the U.S. first, sources say. Trump administration officials acknowledged in closed-door briefings with congressional staff on Sunday that there was no intelligence suggesting Iran planned to attack U.S. forces first, two people familiar with the matter said. The United States and Israel launched their most ambitious attacks on Iran in decades on Saturday, killing Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei, sinking Iran warships and hitting more than 1,000 targets so far. But Sunday's remarks to Congress appear to undercut one of the key arguments for the war made by senior administration officials. They told reporters the day before that President Donald Trump decided to launch the attacks in part because of indicators that Iranians might strike the U.S. forces in the Middle East, perhaps preemptively. Trump, one of the officials said, was not going to, quote, sit back and allow American forces in the region to absorb attacks. So the Pentagon was briefing the Democratic and Republican staff of several national security committees in both the Senate and the House of Representatives for more than 90 minutes, and they clearly stated, right, in the briefings, administration officials emphasized that Iran's ballistic missiles and proxy forces in the region posed an imminent threat to U.S. interests, but there was no intelligence about Tehran attacking U.S. forces first. The two sources, speaking on condition of anonymity, told Reuters. So yes, they have ballistic missiles. Yes, Iran has proxy forces in the region. They posed some kind of a threat, an imminent threat to U.S. interests, but there was no intelligence that they were going to attack U.S. forces first. This is a war of choice. They are choosing to do this. Right, and once again, let's talk about those strikes that happened just last year. The U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran in June 2025 explicitly targeted and were intended to destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear development facilities. Israel launched the initial campaign, Operation Rising Lion, on June 13, 2025, striking nuclear sites, including Natanz, which is Iran's primary uranium enrichment facility, part of the Isfahan complex, and the Iraq reactor site. It also assassinated nuclear scientists and military leaders involved in the program. Israeli officials, including Benjamin Netanyahu, stated the goal that was to strike at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program and prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. So they kneecap their nuclear enrichment program completely, killing the scientists, bombing the facilities, turning them to rubble. And they didn't fully destroy it, but they did some damage, enough to at least set them back. And yet here they are making the claim that we had to do this. We had to step in because Iran could build a nuke any day now, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been saying this for some 30-odd years, that they could be developing a nuke. It's just it's nothing short of insane that this is what they're doing. This is the America First administration. This is the golden age, as some call it. And these are the choices that they're making. Insane. And during that briefing, okay, apparently some of the senators and Congress people were told that, quote, risks to Israel were equated as risks to the U.S. Well, let's listen to the quote here.
I've said before, I've said now, there was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel. If we equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the United States, then we are in uncharted territory. We have seen the goals for this operation change now, I believe, 4 or 5 times.
The communications surrounding this war is embarrassing isn't even the word for it. It's just, if you're going to conduct such an operation, if you're going to do something of such significance that people have been warning against for decades, do not attack Iran. Do not go into that conflict thinking that it's just going to be another Iraq. Excuse me. That it could very well turn out to be in Afghanistan. Sorry, bit of a sore throat. These people know. The people in the administration, they've known for years what the potential backlash would be for such an action. These people, they've known. They've received the briefings. They're well aware of the risks that are posed to them, to the region, to the men and women that they're going to send overseas to fight this fight, because Israel is not going to have the troops. They're not going to have the manpower. They're not going to have enough weaponry to deal with this alone. They cannot do it without the United States. And so now we have confirmation that during these hearings, during these these briefings, the risk to Israel was equated to a risk to the United States, which, for those that don't know, okay, Iran is on the other side of the world. They're not exactly neighbors to the United States. That entire region, right, it might be of some geopolitical concern, right? There may be some interests in the region regarding, although the oil reserves and whatnot. Sure, that certainly exists. You can make the argument for that. But does that constitute a war? A hot war? An armed conflict against a nation that is not only fundamentally opposed to the United States, but one that could actually wreak havoc with their nuclear armaments. And this is what they've decided to do. This is what the administration has decided to do. And first and foremost, before we continue, this war right here, this is the death of Maga. This is the death of that movement completely, because now it's just irrelevant. It has been made irrelevant by this invasion. And I'll tell you why. Right? Because once again, when Trump was descending on that escalator all those years ago, when all of that was happening, what did he say? He said, drain the swamp. He said, no more conflicts in the Middle East. He said, bring back manufacturing to the United States. He said, tax cuts to the middle class. He said that the silent majority will be recognized. That America will not be bullied anymore by external actors. That they will be free from foreign influence. That they will stand tall and proud on the world stage as a free nation. And what do we have now? I mean, what do we have now? Tax cuts for the rich? You have the Epstein files that in the last campaign they promised to release. They've been dragging their feet the entire time. We haven't seen a single arrest come out, a single arrest of anybody who is in the documents. First, they said there were no documents. First, they said that the only content, the only things that they could release was actual footage of these crimes being committed on the island. And then come to find out there's actually quite a few pages. And then come to find out there's actually even more pages. And now absolutely nothing is happening. They've been dragging their feet on this, to say the least, obstructing the release of these files, which is something that they promised they would not do. They ran on this. People voted them to get into power so that they could release these files. And what's happened as a result of it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it's one thing for people to say, oh, your vote doesn't actually really matter. AIPAC or other foreign influence organizations actually rule the political machinations of the United States. Fine, sure, you could make all those assertions. But Trump was the first candidate to actually come out and say, I am going to do something about this. It was an open secret. All of these things were an open secret for years and years and years, and no politician, no one single person that was running for presidency that had the will of the people behind them was actually coming out and saying this. And then you had Trump, who blew the whole thing out of the water. He said he was going to root out the deep state. He said he was going to do all these things, and what has come to pass? The man was given a mandate by the people of the United States, tens of millions of people, to support their wishes, to fulfill the mandate that they promised. And what did they do with it? We're a year and a half into this presidency, and we're at war with Iran. And when I say we, okay, I mean North America, because obviously America is going to be doing all the fighting. Canada's not going to be stepping in anytime soon. So I'm using I don't know if it's the royal we or what, but now we as the West are embroiled in this. And to whose benefit? Because really, as I've pointed out with those 7 countries, it really just seems like Israel is the only one that's actually going to benefit from this. If this conflict goes the way that they hope it will, that they're planning it to go, then once Iran is taken off the board, if it even is, if they even manage something like that, because this country, for those that don't know, right, it's like 4 times bigger than Iraq, and it's mostly mountainous. I mean, look at this. Look at how big that is compared to Iraq, 3 times as big as Iraq. And all these lighter brown splotches that you see here, these are mountains. This is not going to be an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not sure what they expect to do here. What are the chances that they actually manage to succeed with something like this? I honestly, I cannot say. I don't know. I really don't know. And so Trump had this mandate from the people twice. Trump was shot at. He was villainized. The entirety of the FBI was mobilized to get him on the Russiagate scandal, which nothing came of it. Right? And then fast forward to the election in 2024, right? He gets shot at. The Democrats, apologies, neighbors got dogs. The Democrats tried to get him off the ballot of multiple states, make it so that people can't even vote for him. They're calling him Hitler on national primetime TV. And all of this is going on, and he's still dominating. He's still dominating the polls. He was still dominating the election. And then he wins again. And you would think that with all of that in the background, all of these forces that were plotting against him, you would think that that would give the man pause. You would think that that would somehow change his perspective, maybe give him a new lease on life. I understand the importance of this mission of making America free, of making it free from foreign interference, of actually rooting out the deep state. Going back to the understanding that the only way that the country is run is by the will of the people and not of the donor class, not of the lobbyists, not of the foreign nations who have these interests, AIPAC and otherwise. But no, he still decides to go to war with Iran at the behest of Israel. So instead of pressuring Israel, right? Like look at the scale of that country. Look at Israel, just the size alone. You're telling me that America, this absolute monstrosity, California's GDP is bigger than most nations, one single state alone. And you're telling me they had no way to influence a country the size of Israel to stop the attack? You're telling me that there's nothing that could be done to deter this, to stop this from happening? I find that hard to believe. That doesn't pass the smell test. I really find that hard to believe that there was absolutely no way for them to pressure Israel to stop this from going any further. And the cherry on top, the cherry on top, our prime minister, our beloved leader, Mark Carney, comes out with this statement. Comes out with this glorious statement, which conveniently just goes against everything that he said during his speech at the WEF. Right, there's a quote here at the bottom. Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. So hold on. This man gets up in front of the WEF and says that the post-World War II order, right, the rules-based international order is done. It was a lie that we all played into out of convenience. And now he's just completely bending over and saying that, yeah, we support the United States. I mean, my God, like, just pick a fucking lane. You either believe in the rules-based international order or you don't. You don't get to just believe in it sometimes and not other times when it doesn't benefit you. But this is what he was trying to do with the statement. Right? Here's a quote from his WEF speech. Quote, "Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is, a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as a weapon of coercion." Quote, "You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination." Here's another quote. "We knew the story of the rules-based international order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically, and we knew that the international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim." So he says all that, right? The speech heard around the world. And then when America does something, as exactly as he put it, against the rules-based international order, he comes out in support of it. Fantastic. 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 And then only like yesterday, he comes back and he walks back these comments. Let's listen to this quote here.
To prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. Because Canada is taking the world as it is, not passively waiting for a world we wish to be. We do, however, take this position with regret because the current conflict is another example of the failure of the international order. Despite decades of UN Security Council resolutions, the tireless work of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the succession of sanctions and diplomatic frameworks, Iran's nuclear threat remains. And now, the United States and Israel have acted without engaging the United Nations or consulting allies, including Canada. So where to from here? With a rapidly spreading conflict and growing threats to civilian life. Canada reaffirms that international law binds all belligerents. We condemn the strikes carried out by Iran on civilians and civilian infrastructure across the Middle East. And we implore all parties, including the United States and Israel, to respect the rules of international engagement. Canada calls for a rapid de-escalation of hostilities and is prepared to assist in achieving this goal.
Okay, so once again, and I quote from Carney's own words, stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. And here he is invoking it, that America should have gone to the UN, that they should have consulted with Canada, that there should have been some diplomatic outreach. I mean, every time I see an announcement like this, it bewilders me how these people are in power. They're absolute retards. Or rather, they think we are retards. And I don't know which is worse. I genuinely don't know which is worse. He says he took this position with regret. Really? You didn't really sound all that regretful. You really didn't sound all that regretful here. When you said Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security, I don't see the word regret anywhere in this document. I really don't. I don't think it shows up a single time. Not a lot of regret going on. And also, once again, what nuclear threat? What nuclear threat? They just conducted strikes only last year, only months ago, not even a year ago. And they said that they successfully deterred them from building a nuke. They set them back years. They said this. The Americans said this. The Israelis said this. They were proud to proclaim this, how they bombed their fields, they killed their scientists, turned it into all their rubble. So then what is the point of this conflict? Why go in? And to go in, once again, because Israel pressured them into it. A state, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction the size of America, pressured the greatest military in the world to date into this conflict. And so just back to my point, okay? The reason that the war in Iran is a significant development of events, not just because of the conflict, but because, once again, the MAGA movement is dead. It is dead. There is no coming back from this. Absolutely not. Not in any way, shape, or form. There is nothing that can be done to redeem them. Right? All those things I said before, bringing back manufacturing, bringing back jobs, creating a more free and strong America, free from foreign interference. to destroy the deep state. I mean, Trump quite literally turned the political establishment on its head. He was the first candidate in decades to come out and say, oh, if the GOP doesn't want to back me, I will run as an independent. I don't care. I have my own funds. I don't need to rely on donors and lobbyists. I will speak on behalf of the people. This was whatever people's opinions of Trump or whether they have Trump derangement syndrome, just look at it objectively. This is a man that came on the world stage like fucking Thanos in Infinity War. Fine, I'll do it myself. I will recognize the people and their demands. I will speak on their behalf and I will act on their behalf. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that America is strong and free. That is the mandate that he was given. This is what the people demanded. And none of it materialized. Absolutely none of it. The border wall still remains unbuilt, unfinished. They've stopped the mass deportations. I mean, this is all right. Part of the reason why this is just so not only disheartening, but it brings on a sense of disillusionment. Because once again, Obama's FBI spied on the campaign. Russiagate lasted for years. And the Clinton-funded Steele dossier, which alleged that Trump was in some way, shape, or form influenced by Russia because they had P-tapes on him of hookers pissing on him. He was one of the first candidates to openly discuss the failure of the Iraq War and to point at the politicians who voted for it and to chastise them for it on the national stage, on the international stage. He was one of the few people to start actually talking about reversing trade policies and all the deals that they had made with all these countries and all these blocks of influence because they were unfairly diminishing the power and the effectiveness of the United States economy. The loss of U.S. manufacturing and all the things that people have been saying for years, but that no politician had ever stood up like Trump to call a spade a spade. He said, deport the illegals, drain the swamp, build the wall, bring back jobs, end the foreign conflicts. He presented himself as the guy to do it. He was going to be the man to lead America into the quote-unquote promised land. That was the point of his campaign. Three times. Right? Because he lost to Biden. And the second run towards the presidency. And look at what's happening now. Illegal deportations aren't happening because there's too much focusing on the negativity right before the midterms, right? The poll numbers weren't doing so great, even though the Iran war isn't exactly popular with the constituents either. But I guess that's fine. Once again, as I said before, the border wall remains incomplete. The Epstein files remain covered up. The swamp remains. And all the ways that Trump has enriched himself through the presidency, the Trump coin debacle, the Trump phone. Have you guys heard about this? Trump is releasing a phone. It's gold. It's gold, by the way. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Is it Trump Mobile? Oh my God, I have to do a fucking CAPTCHA? Really? Yeah, the Trump phone. Like, this is recent. He released this recently. The golden Trump phone. Amazing. Trump Mobile. The 47 plan. Only $47.45 a month. And now to top it all off, him enriching himself, not draining the swamp, not doing any of the things that he promised the American people he would do. Now there's a war with Iran, which, look, I am no military strategist by any means. I have a basic understanding of the history of that region. But what happens next? Right? What happens next? Are they going to do the same thing that they did way back when, before the Iranian Revolution? Are they going to install a Western supporting leader? And how is that even going to function? These people are religious zealots. They are fundamentalists. Okay, they're Islam through and through. Are they really going to convince people to elect a Western-friendly leader now? Yeah, I've heard from some people say that the hope was that it would be like a Venezuela model, where essentially once they capped off, or rather decapitated, the leadership, that the next person in line would get the hint and know to play along. But how are you going to do that with a nation that has fundamentally opposed the United States and its way of life for decades now? For decades. How are you going to come into a country of religious fundamentalists and convince someone to align with the West? And even if you do convince them, how are you going to ensure that they stay in power? That they don't just flip the script a couple years down the line? Are they going to keep bombing the region? What's going to happen to all the civilians and all the infrastructure? Like, what happens when enough of the infrastructure and the supply lines are destroyed and anarchy breaks out? What happens then? It just becomes a failed state? We get another Libya on our hands? We get another Syria on our hands? What happens to the refugees? Where are they going to go? Are we going to see another migration crisis? Are they all going to head to Europe? Is Canada going to have to absorb some of these people? Right? And what happens when they send boots to the ground? Are they going to set up an occupying force? Or are they going to try to do the same thing they did in Afghanistan? How did that work out? What is the actual plan here? Because once again, they said, oh, we have to do everything in our power to deter them from having a nuclear weapon. Which, okay, maybe you can make that argument if we haven't been hearing about this for 30 years, that Iran is months away from a nuclear weapon. We've been hearing this for decades now, and not just from Netanyahu. There's plenty of people in the GOP that have been sounding the alarm on this as well. And yet, none of that has materialized. None of it. And especially after bombing them just last year to make sure that their nuclear weapons development program, their nuclear material enriching program, was a moot point, was rubble. And yeah, the strikes may not have been 100% successful, but they did enough damage. They killed enough of the people to set them back. I don't know. I'm having a hard time understanding how this in any way is going to be a win for America. Because it doesn't seem to be bringing them any benefit. It just seems like America's going to be picking up the tab on behalf of Israel. You know, Iran hasn't been a threat, a direct and actual active threat to the United States. And by that I mean like they were ready to send missiles their way. ICBMs, nuclear warheads, what have you. And I mean, like I said at the beginning of the show, the Pentagon briefed members of the American government and said that they were not, their assets on the ground there and in the air and in the sea were not in direct threat to Iranian forces, or rather that they were not in, there was no immediate concern for them to be attacked by Iran imminently. But apparently Israel's demands outweigh the demands of the people of America. As Marco Rubio just stated, Israel pressured them into the war, and because America has assets there, they had to strike first. to make sure that the counterattack did not reach their bases without any knowledge. Which I feel like all of that could be solved by just pulling the assets from that region, making sure that, you had enough anti-air missiles and defense systems in place so that whatever Iran sent their way, they could defend themselves. And the other concern, right, the other concern right now with the war is that this is a ticking clock. America does not have a forever window to end this conflict. Because the issue is, right, Iran can create these cheap missiles. They can manufacture them at a much faster rate than America can create anti-air defense systems. Whether it's missiles or the, what have you, whatever weaponry they use for that. And this isn't me saying it. This is Marco Rubio saying it.
They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have. They are producing, by some estimates...
And these interceptors, mind you, they don't have a 100% hit rate. So if Iran can create a large enough stockpile of one-way missiles and drones, well, not one-way missiles, but one-way drones and missiles, and the U.S. cannot create enough defense systems, defense weapons, or whatever category they are, to defend themselves and Israel as a direct result from these attacks, then that means that they have a narrow window in which this conflict has to be dealt with. Otherwise, it just turns into a stalemate and nothing happens and Iran gets to rebuild their stockpile. I mean, this could very well turn into a clusterfuck that goes on for another decade. And it will be not only the end of Maga, but this will be the thing that Donald Trump is remembered for. Even if it doesn't turn into this protracted conflict, even if they, achieve all their stated goals, even if they actually manage to quote unquote win this war, this will still be a stain on Trump's history. There is no defending this. The man for years, Trump alone himself, has come out and said these wars in the Middle East are disastrous. We cannot get entangled in them again. And yet here we are. And that's a pretty big one. People can make whatever arguments they want regarding the deportations or the border wall. Maybe there's some leeway there with some of those things. Maybe people could be a little forgiving with that. But especially after the Epstein files and now this, MAGA is dead. MAGA is dead. And it's yet another lesson that the people are not in any way, shape, or form. In any way, shape, or form, the people, the common folk, the people that pay the taxes that these wars could be fought in the first place, the people that support these politicians so that they can get in power and enrich themselves, their friends, and their families. The people's vote, it doesn't seem to matter. They don't give a shit. They will do whatever the fuck they want. They will go as far as to use them one man that for decades now, we haven't seen a person like this come on the world stage to come out and say all these things, that he's against the deep state, that he's for the will of the people. They will even use that man, and that man will use his position to do what his lobbyists want, to do what foreign interests want him to do. I mean, Trump was the first modern attempt in North American history to create a nationalist movement, which we haven't seen in a very long time. The outcome that we all hoped for, right? The people that supported Trump, at least in 2016, was to oppose the status quo elites, to turn the political order on its head, so that the people's considerations and their quality of life was the priority. That was the thought at the forefront of this political movement, instead of foreign allegiances or influence peddling. America was going to, had this presidency been successful in achieving those goals, America was going to become the blueprint for these movements around the world. I mean, you saw it when Brazil had their election, when Italy had their election, when the Germans have their ADF. Every single time that these politicians come out, they call them Trump-esque, or that they have Trump-like qualities. That's because they espouse the exact same things. The people come first. That we have to deport the immigrants and the migrants and the illegals that are leeching off the public dollar, that are making life more difficult, more violent for the rest of us. Right? This was their stated mandate. And not only did he fail, it's yet another reminder that these people, they don't give a shit. They don't care. I mean, it's to the point where Nick Fuentes, one of Trump's, at least in the 2016 campaign, one of his biggest supporters, outspoken supporters, and now turned critic, where he's telling people to vote Democrat in 2028, which they very much will. And what happens then? What happens when the tables turn like that? When Nick Fuentes is able to amass all the influence that he has to turn the gun against the GOP, figuratively, not literally. The whole thing is just a fucking mess. The whole thing is a mess. And I understand that this show, right, the point of this show is to talk about anything and everything to do with the idea and the movement of Canada first. But this matters because, once again, Trump was the example. He was setting the example for everyone else to follow. Because if they succeeded doing this in America, it would have been a lesson to all nations across the world, every political order, that this was possible, that the people could take back control over the political process, which they have been robbed of for decades, for centuries. That this was going to be the turning point. And it just completely, in almost in every single way possible, now could not be further from the truth. And so this matters, because in Canada we're seeing a resurgence of this kind of a movement. You know, they like to say that Pierre Poilievre is bringing Trump-style politics to Canada. That could not be further from the truth. He is certainly not. He's falling much shorter of that goal than people realize, or that the political establishment would like us to believe. But we are in dire need of that kind of movement here in Canada too, except one that doesn't just completely kowtow to foreign interests. Lead this campaign for all these years. You know, it's been almost 10 plus years that we've been seeing Trump do this on the world stage. You know, if we count the second election that he lost. And look at what's come of it. It's just it's nothing short of disappointing. Isn't even the word that I would use here. It's once again it's demoralizing. You know, it's very blackpilling to see this. the one candidate that we all thought was going to turn things around was actually going to live up to what he said, to look out for the interests of the people. And here we are. Here we are, ensconced in yet another foreign conflict, which could very well lead to World War III, for all we know. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. Every day I wake up now and I see new headlines about the war, part of me just doesn't think it's real. After everything that's been said and done, I have a hard time thinking that it's real. But back to the point, right? So Canada's been in dire need of a movement like this for years now. And we're seeing some organization around this idea of Canada First on the ground, not with the current political establishment, but with certain organizations that are operating like the Dominion Society. And maybe it'll turn into something down the line. I don't think it'll be ready in time for the next election. But that, I could very well be wrong. But this kind of movement, right, the things that Trump stood for in 2016 and what he said he was going to do, this is exactly what needs to happen in Canada. Right? Our own elites and ruling class have not only dismissed our decreasing quality of life, they've actively diminished it and destroyed anything and everyone in their way. Anyone and everyone that has stood against this, that has publicly decried their role in this. They have made it untenable for anyone to come up in Canadian society, in the mainstream, to come out and say, actually, Canada's doing pretty shit right now. And we are kneecapping ourselves for the sake of, foreign interests? For the sake of the elite's bank accounts? Really? Millions of Indians brought in to temporarily boost GDP. And the government has only now admitted, after years of denying that it was a problem, they've only now admit to it. Only now. Which is nothing short of incredible. I want to see if I can find this video because this was just so telling. I believe it was about 2 weeks ago or so. And I think it was Canada's immigration minister who came out and straight up said that, yes, this was an attempt to temporarily boost our GDP following COVID and that it needed to happen. Otherwise, the economy was going to go into the shitter. And now it's had all these untold consequences. Let's play this clip here. Because this is just, so vindicating. But once again, they only do this now, years after the fact. Now that we're all paying for it, now that we're all faced with all these issues, now they come out and say this?
In 2019, when with our healthcare and economy in crisis, Canada used immigration to address urgent labor shortages and to support our recovery. Unfortunately, it also grew our population faster than many Canadian communities could absorb, also putting pressure on housing, on infrastructure, and on social services.
Unfortunately. Unfortunately being the key word. Whoopsie daisies. Sorry about that. We made a fucky wucky. Unfortunately, wow. The fucking gall of these people. How do they sleep at night? It's nothing short of incredible. My God, for years people were saying this is a fucking problem. For years they were saying the rate of immigration is untenable, that our youth are losing access to the job market, that housing is at an all-time high, and our government stuck their head in the sand and ignored everyone's pleas. They didn't care. They sacrificed and handicapped the youth. At a time when, in your youth, it's a time when one is most virile and risk-taking. It's the prime opportunity to act with agency and to leave your mark upon the world before the weight of adulthood and responsibility slows you down, before you have kids, before you have a mortgage, before you have debt to pay off. And they kneecapped entire generations just to temporarily boost the GDP. And our GDP per capita is now lower than Alabama's. So how the fuck did that work out? I really hope that they appreciated the boost in the GDP. I really hope that they enjoyed that little while, that their short-lived victory. And this is just one of those things, right? Yet another reason, right here, another reason why Canada First needs to not only happen but be embraced by masses of Canadian society. Our kids are being conditioned to embrace trans ideology as the norm for society, thereby encouraging them to fundamentally alter their bodies and their minds in their most vulnerable years. This is conditioning that is happening at every single level, from grade school to high school to university and beyond. Just about every school in the country has a pride flag that they fly. They have classes on this. They have clubs on this. They have lectures on this. We have an entire month where this is openly celebrated by our politicians. There's stickers and posters outside of businesses saying that they welcome everyone and they'll have a trans flag on it. As if before they weren't welcoming. This indoctrination exists at every single level. Okay, it's to the point where our judicial system is inextricably linked to this ideology. I mean, just yesterday, they announced charges against a man who slit the throats of his children. They're alive, thankfully. They are alive now, but he slit their throats and stabbed them, this fucking troon, and he got 5 years. 5 years. 5 years. He got sentenced to 5 years. The reason that number is significant, not only because it's so little, but because Tamara Litch, one of the organizers of the Freedom Convoy, they were trying to get her for 8 years for mischief. 8 years. And our justice system gives 5 years to a man that actively hurt his own children, who is mentally ill. Let me see if I can find this, because this is just, I can't believe this is under the radar. I have yet to see any actual legitimate media cover this. Here it is. A trans-identified male has been sentenced to 5 years in prison after stabbing his 8-year-old daughter in the esophagus and assaulting his 7-year-old son. He blamed his gender identity and marijuana use for the attack. This is where the country is right now. The courts will give you a much more lenient sentence if you almost kill your kids than you would if you caused mischief on the Capitol. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Our public transit systems and downtown cores are filled with degenerates, addicts, psychotic homeless, and otherwise people who are a danger to themselves and, more importantly, to the rest of us and those we love. Every single day I take the transit system here in Toronto, every single day, just about 90% of the time, I will see somebody cracked out of their minds, either in the course of using drugs or in the after effects of it, bothering people, getting verbal with them, sometimes fighting with them. Almost every single day that I take public transit, I see headlines in my city about this. Our nation-building infrastructure projects are nowhere to be seen. They're bogged down by mountains of bureaucracy, red tape, and bribery. We live in one of the most prosperous eras of human history, in one of the richest nations on the planet, abundant with resources, abundant with people with engineering know-how. We have the builders, we have the capabilities, and what are we doing with it? Nothing. We're taking 15 years to build one single transit line across the city. 15 years and billions down the drain. The budget ballooned 3 times as high, I think 4 times as high as it was initially quoted. Our national anthem was changed without a single Canadian citizen being asked whether it should be changed. Our national anthem, for Christ's sake. Our national anthem was changed by a man who is no longer in power. And it remains changed to this day. Sung by kids in school every single day. They will grow up learning the new anthem, not knowing what came before. And the anthem wasn't completely changed, it was just the wording around some things, but they were trying to essentially make it more inclusive. I didn't get a vote in that. Did you get a vote in that? Did any of us get a vote in that? Our founding history of Canada has been demonized and put at the center of grievance politics for a decade now. The amount of statues that have been torn down, the schools that have been renamed, streets that have been renamed, and to whose benefit? Who are we doing this for? For Canadians? We're wasting millions and millions and millions of dollars changing our history fundamentally? Our vast wealth of natural resources remains untapped to its fullest potential. Billions remain in the ground at the expense of our quality of life to appease the environmentalists. While China is building coal plants every single day like it's nobody's business. And we're economically stagnating? Are you kidding me? For what? To appease some leftists? Because the natives are going to shed a tear? Are we a fucking joke? How is this real? I don't understand how this is not just how the MAGA movement hasn't made its way up north up until now. It's really only recently that we've started to see more and more headlines about this and more rumblings, but this is insane. We need a MAGA movement of our own, but a real one. Not whatever's happening now in America, but an actual real one, because this position that we're in is untenable. It's not sustainable. Right? Our hospitals are overflowing with patients, leading to record high wait times or even potential death to those that decide to go home before seeing a doctor after waiting for 8 hours. There have been multiple cases of this where people go to the hospital, the wait time is too long, they come back home, and then they die. Our assisted suicide program is on track to kill 100,000 people total since its inception this year. 100,000 Canadians dead. It's quicker to get an application for state-assisted suicide than it is to see a specialist. And we're paying for it every step of the way with our taxes, our time, our lives. And if you try to point any of this out, you're fired, you're dismissed, or you're excommunicated from society. And the reason that this ties back to the Iran war is because, once again, this war is going to be the final death throw of MAGA in America. Completely. Like, this will negate everything that they have built for all these years. But this, in a way, this is an important lesson for Canada. We cannot fall from the same trick when, not if, but when it happens here. There is too much at stake to let that happen. There's way too much at stake to let that happen. For us to fall to foreign interference in the same way that America has. We have to unite and organize around the ideas of Canada first. There is no other choice. There's no left, there's no right. No, it's Canada first. You're either with us or you're against us. That's it. Simple as. Okay, and we have to organize around these principles, right? Rebuild the immigration system from the ground up. Completely restructure it. Begin mass deportations and remigrations of entire populations of people. We have to deport all illegals, every single one of them. We have to kill land acknowledgements, remove them completely. In every way, shape, or form, because this is only giving further credence to indigenous tribes to then say, oh, you guys are acknowledging that this is stolen land? All right, then I guess we'll, here's our application so we can take it back. I mean, just the other day, there was a tribe that has now said they're now contesting who owns the rights to the Greater Vancouver area. And what that means for Canada, I genuinely do not know. I genuinely do not know. The premier for BC, Premier Eby, came out and said that he had no idea this was happening in his own province, in the the major city of that province. Pretty sure it's the capital, if my geography is correct. Yeah, it is the capital. And the premier is coming out and saying he has no knowledge of this. He has no idea that this is happening. This is how incompetent our political elite is? Really? This is what we voted for? Unbelievable. We in that same vein, we have to force universities to start defending freedom of speech and withhold funding if they don't. Because the universities are the exact place where this kind of radicalization happens. This is exactly where people get these ideas in the first place. And I'm not saying that we need to make it so that cultural Marxism is never taught in university. Right? They can keep that idea, but they have to let the people on the opposition, the people that actually oppose that, speak too. And they haven't been doing a good job of that at all. I covered this a couple shows back, but there was an incident where a woman that was an ex-professor that was fired for saying that the 215 missing kids was actually a hoax. She went on that campus, I believe it was in BC, and was essentially pushed off of campus by a mob of people following them. They had to get security. Like, not just like actual like cops to hold the line. They eventually trapped them in a building. This is a whole debacle. And nobody on national media covered it. Of course, why would the CBC cover it? It's unpopular. Why would they say that? Of course. But we have to do everything we can to tear out the leftist indoctrination from our schools. But I'm not saying ban certain words or ban certain books, but there has to be an understanding that this ideology, to a great extent, seeks to destroy everything that we enjoy in our way of life. That if we let it run rampant, it becomes grievance politics the whole way down. And that is not the kind of nation I want to live in. I don't want to live in a nation that when it becomes inconvenient, they start tearing down statues of its founders. Because how else are we supposed to study history? How else are we supposed to learn from history? How are we supposed to learn from the lessons of the past if we're just tearing down all these symbols, if we're changing names of streets? Just to what? Just to appease some fucking hicklibs? Really? We have to strip the press of their subsidized wages. And I mean across the board. I mean the CBC, I mean CTV, Global News, everybody. Because right now, the entirety of the press in Canada, every single major organization, gets funding from the country, or from the tax dollars rather, one way, shape, or form. Whether it's the wages, their equipment, what have you, all of that needs to be removed. The press cannot be subsidized by the nation. If you can't figure out how to publish news and make money while you're doing it, then you don't deserve to be in business. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And we have to erase the CBC from its existence. And by that, I mean like just the TV. Keep the radio. They got some decent shows on there. They tell some decent stories. It's actually quite fun, especially if you're on a long drive somewhere. It's quite a good. It's actually quite a good piece of content there that they put out there. So keep CBC Radio. Fuck CBC National TV. Get that shit out of here. If you watch any of the commercials, you'll know exactly who the audience type is. It's always for life insurance, for Life Alert, hearing aids, what have you. Nobody's watching it. Okay? Nobody's watching it. And we have to get back to nation building. Get back to light speed rail. Okay? Get back to large and grand infrastructure projects that unite Canada. Our entire nation exists along the US border for the most part. We have an entire country, entire chunks of it that we have yet to dominate. And I'm not saying pave the whole thing and turn it into a parking lot. But there's no reason that a train from Toronto to Ottawa should cost almost $100. There is no reason for that. We shouldn't just have one set of tracks going along that route. And it's crazy that we haven't built anything since. It's nothing short of crazy that we haven't built anything since. And we have to revitalize our natural resource production completely. Get these fucking leftists, greenies out of the decision-making process for that. They cannot be allowed to be the loudest in the room and to dictate what Canada does with its resources. Is it economically viable? Will it benefit people? Will it build new jobs? Or rather make new jobs? Those are the questions that have to be asked. Not whether some indigenous tribe has been consulted. With all due respect. Okay, with all due fucking respect. They don't own the land. They do not. The crown does. The state does. There's no arguing that. There cannot be an argument against that. You know, you have some considerations regarding, you know, putting down pipelines, how it's going to affect the wildlife. Sure, let's have a hearing about it. Right? Let's do an assessment. But these people should not be able to dictate or to veto where we build these infrastructure projects. Projects that will benefit them in the end. And yet here we are. Gas prices rising. And because of this Iran conflict, it's only going to continue to rise. Because God knows what's going to happen with the oil reserves there. And all in all, right, I say all these things, these are just general ideas that I'm throwing out there. But fundamentally, right, Canada is in desperate need of a Maga movement of its own, but one that actually will fulfill its mandate and not just dismiss it when it becomes inconvenient or when some international partner tells them to leave it. We need a Trump of our own. And that's not to say we need somebody to be loud and boisterous, to come out and make nicknames for his political opponents, to create all this chaos. That's not what I'm advocating for. But I'm saying that we need to embody that spirit that seeks to build Canada, to make Canada first the national priority across the board for everything, for our economy, for our infrastructure, the job market, our education, how we consider our history, the role that we have to play in the world, everything from top down. And this war with Iran, this is but a lesson to be learned. That's all it is for Canada. Because that's all we can do. Like what? We're gonna send troops? Like, no, we're not. We're not gonna send troops. Canada isn't directly affected as a result of this. Not directly. Yeah, maybe there'll be some things to discuss regarding the trade deals, depending on how this war goes with the United States. Because, what happens to the U.S., that will affect us too. But fundamentally, Canada has no role to play here. So this is a teaching moment. This is a learning moment. And that's all I really have to say on that. Beyond that, there's not much else that I wanted to discuss. I'm sorry. I keep thinking back. We're North America, America is at war with Iran. Let me see if there's any new updates on that before we close off the show here. Nothing significant. Oh, one thing I'll say. This is something that I forgot to cover. What happens when we start seeing retaliations? What happens when Islamic fundamentalists, the people that are hardliners, what happens when those people that are stationed around the world start taking matters into their own hands? What happens when they start thinking that the best way to hurt the West and to demoralize the West and to stop them from further entanglement in this conflict is to suicide bomb high-density areas? What happens when these people start thinking that we need to do something on the ground? Since Iran can't directly attack the United States, what happens when these people start thinking of ways to hurt us? And it's only a couple days into the conflict, and we've already seen, I'm pretty sure there's a shooting in, where was that? Let me see if I can find it up. What was the recent terrorist incident where a black man shot up a bar linked to Islam/Iran war? Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Ndiaga Diagne, a naturalized U.S. citizen born originally in Senegal, opened fire from his SUV, first shooting from the vehicle as he drove past multiple times, then exiting to continue the attack with a pistol and rifle. This killed 2 people initially and wounded 14 others. The FBI is investigating as a potential act of terrorism, citing indications found on the suspect and in his vehicle suggesting a possible nexus to terrorism. This came just over a day after reported U.S. and Israeli military strikes on Iran, leading authorities to probe whether the shooting was motivated by retaliation or vengeance related to that conflict. He was wearing a hoodie and sweatshirt that said "Property of Allah," and he had an undershirt featuring an Iranian flag. And investigators found an Iranian flag and photos of Iranian leaders in his home apartment and a Quran in his vehicle. So this is just but the first one. Right? And this could happen at any moment. These people don't even need to have mass attacks like this. There was an incident, and I've mentioned this on a podcast before, where a man slashed the neck of another man on a bus, and he did it for ISIS, I believe it was. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, April 1st, 2023, in Surrey, British Columbia. A man named Abdul Aziz Kawam carried out a knife attack linked to the Islamic State. He assaulted a person with a knife on a bus near Fraser Highway. He then boarded a transit bus and slashed another passenger in the throat and neck area multiple times. Shortly after the incident, he called 911 on himself and explicitly stated that he carried out the attack on behalf of the Islamic State. So what happens when more of these attacks start popping up? Are we going to have to start paying the price for America's invasion? Because this could happen all over the world. This doesn't necessarily have to happen in America. This could happen in any allied country, or any country, really. I mean, there was just an announcement the other day that, what was it? They announced that a global jihad had to be carried out against America. Let's see if I can find the actual text of this. Okay, so it says there's no official Iranian state-level declaration of universal global jihad, and no mainstream outlets reported a formal Iranian government framing it as a global jihad. Let me see if I can find the actual post. So it says here that two of Iran's most senior Shiite clerics have called on Muslims worldwide to avenge the killing of Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei, escalating rhetoric days after his death in joint U.S.-Israeli strikes. Now, is this actually true? Did two of Iran's senior clerics declare global jihad? Because who knows? It could very well be fake news. But then again, do they even need a declaration? Do they need a formal announcement? If they can just continue with these attacks? It says here, yeah, that they issued fatwas following the reported killing of the supreme leader. They framed vengeance as religious duty, obligatory on Muslims worldwide, effectively declaring jihad against the United States and Israel. So this war could very well spread to not only North America, but, well, I mean, the rest of the world by default. If enough of these extremists get the wrong idea. And yeah, this story, this show has been fundamentally blackpilling to discuss a war that could not only lead to World War III, but the failure of the Maga movement to live up to its mandate, to actually follow through on what they said they would do. I mean, the fallout of this we will be dealing with for decades to come. Of both things. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I have faith that we will be able to navigate it and survive and come out the other end. So, look, yes, it's demoralizing. Yes, it's unknown where this conflict will lead. But humanity has been through much worse before. Our ancestors have been through much worse before, and we got this far. So I have faith that in the end, we're going to make it through. We're going to make it through, and we're going to find our way. But this has certainly been a hell of a blackpilling week. But the most important thing is that you guys don't give in. That we don't give in. And that we persevere. And we press forward regardless. And that being said, thank everyone for tuning into the show. I don't really have much else to say on the conflict beyond that. Once again, if you want to support us, you can go to the link in the description to the bio.link/whitepill site. Donations right now are crypto only. PayPal has been shut down in the meantime. But yeah, if you want to send some funds and support the show financially, you can do it like that. But otherwise, just watch on Rumble, subscribe on Rumble. There's a referral link in the description there. And yeah, I may or may not be on later tonight with another show. We'll see how that goes. Otherwise, we'll see you guys Friday because we pushed the convoy episode till then. So me and my co-host, Mr. Fireside Talks, will be back on Friday for that. And yeah, without further ado, I hope you guys have yourselves the white-pilled Wednesday, as white-pilled as you can be these days. Yeah, monitor the situation. Stay safe. I don't know what much more I could say. But yeah, we'll see you guys later.